So creative agencies stay stuck because they are consistently sacrificing something. So they will push for speed and the quality drops. They will chase perfect quality and the timelines ultimately end up exploding. Or they try to do everything and the team just ends up burning out. But healthy, profitable creative agencies don't rely on hustle or heroic effort. They rely on a simple framework that keeps quality high, projects moving, and the team energized consistently. So in this video, I'm going to show you the structure that allows creative agencies to stay wildly profitable and healthy. And once you understand how to balance these forces, your operations become smoother, your margins end up going up, and your team becomes far easier for you to be able to manage. Let's jump into it. So let's talk about the creative agency's sort of triangle, if you will. You've got quality, speed, and team well-being. And the way that we think about each one of these, and I'm going to jump into it. So quality is the standard of work that we are ultimately delivering. Speed being how fast can we ultimately deliver it. And then team's well-being is the energy, the capacity, and the morale across the team. And so here's the thing that you want to think about, right? So quality is paramount. Being able to deliver on time is important because every single week that we go over timeline, the typical percentage of margin erosion is 6% per week. But if we don't have a happy team, then we don't have great service delivery people, right? That the actual person that we are, the thing that we are selling, our team's talent, time, and attention, we don't have a good work product anymore. So most agencies over prioritize one and unknowingly are damaging the other. So if we're prioritizing quality, then speed takes too long. And if we are prioritizing speed, then quality suffers and the team well-being suffers. And if we look at both quality and speed, of course, the team is going to suffer. So how do we actually allow for us to balance each one of them is vital. So let's talk about what happens when one side of this triangle breaks. So if quality breaks down, you end up with unhappy clients, or you end up with scope creep because you're needing to try to make up for the things, and it ends up just causing a lot of rework when you end up having quality issues. If we end up with speed issues, we end up with a clogged pipeline of work that we currently have, late projects, lost referrals because we didn't deliver on time, and with lower profit margins. So the reality is that every single week that you're going overdue on a project, the typical amount of margin erosion is 6%. So every single week you're losing 6% of profitability. And when you think about the most agencies, you're anywhere between, 12 being average, that 2 weeks can mean that you go from making money to not making any. And if you are more profitable than that, it's still, again, just within 6 weeks of something going past due, which is a normal amount that I do see that happening, you end up being unprofitable. So this is a very important component. And then the well-being of the team. So if the team is not being paid attention to, you end up with inconsistent delivery, you end up with turnover on your team, which is a lot of headache. You end up with burnout across your team, and you end up with bad service providers, which ends up with not a great client experience and what ends up in client turnover as well. So understand that this triangle needs to have an equilibrium, a balance between the three, allowing for you to be able to be in a better place. So let's talk about the reasons that a lot of agencies become unprofitable. So they are overservicing their clients because they have unclear expectations at the beginning of the project of what exactly, where do we begin and end? What are we doing? What's included? What's excluded? And that poor project scoping ends up in not having a meaningful delivery rhythm, which ends up creating quality problems, speed problems, and morale problems. And the founder ends up kind of just centered around this operational component. They are either too involved or not involved enough of what's actually going on. And when each one of these pieces break, it is going to have a profitability problem. And so quality ends up with not having great client experiences, which ends up not getting referrals, which ends up with a profitability problem. We end up with speed issues, which then results in projects not being delivered on time, which means that we then can't bill, which ends up with a profitability problem. We end up with a team member turning over. We have to spend more time on training, so that reduces our resources availability, which ends up having a profitability problem. And so realizing how each one of these has an immediate impact to your net profit line is vital. So let's talk about the healthy agency kind of framework and how does this actually change and turn around. So clear scoping allows for us to protect quality and time, because if we have a clear understanding of where we begin and end, exactly what we are delivering, we are able to deliver upon the things that we have outlined in the scope better and to the quality standard that we have, ultimately, ideally on time as well. If we're able to have predictable delivery, so how do we actually go about the systems, the step-by-step process, the rhythm that allows for us to deliver on time? So who's meeting when, what exactly we're doing, what are the checkpoints that are required, how is this information being communicated between team members internally as well as with the client? Then role clarity. So if you're not familiar with RACI, go check it out. It's an incredibly useful tool, but having who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. So each person on the team is one of those different pieces of different components of a project. And the people that take ownership, full accountability over the deliverable of that specific component of the project or of that deliverable or whatever internal process you're talking about, it allows for that team member to own it and actually take it through to fruition. And if they know that they are accountable to so, most people want to meet the thing that they are responsible and accountable to. So allow yourself to have that clarity on your team so that they can take that accountability. And then resource planning so that you know exactly who's working on what and when, and it avoids burnout. Because burnout for your team members, if they're working in an inordinate amount of time consistently, then it is going to cause a problem and they are going to leave, which creates a plethora of other issues as we've discussed. So understanding where your team's attention is going at any given moment is really useful. It allows for you to understand too, ahead of time, if you're bringing on more work, are we at an overflow place? Do we have capacity on the team? It allows for you to make more meaningful decisions. This structure is what creates a sustainable creative agency. Allowing for you to be able to have each one of these three things in balance is paramount and incredibly useful. So let's look at now, how do we go about establishing a delivery rhythm that allows for things to be more meaningfully put in place? So a couple of little suggestions. So you start the week understanding where things are going. So this is true for my team as well. And we are massive time blockers. So here's what it is that we're going to be doing from this time to this time on Monday, this time to this time on Tuesday, and being very clear of what things are going to fit into what given day so that we are able to communicate internally of, hey, I've got more work on Monday. Can I get this done on Tuesday? So that we are able to meaningfully communicate with each other. Then a midweek check-in on what things are going, how things are moving along, creative reviews, that sort of thing. And then on Fridays, being sure that you're taking a look at a postmortem on what happened this week, any things that are going to be an issue, and then also looking at the following week of what's coming down the pike. The further out you can actually get, the better things are going to go. And then having meaningful ways to unblock people. So the first version of it for us was having daily meetings. I'm not a fan of those anymore because I didn't find them to be particularly productive. But if you're not in a place where you have a meaningful rhythm and predictability, then it creates for a bit of an issue. So you can allow for yourself to be able to take from these stand-ups and allow for each person to communicate meaningfully and unblock them. As time progresses, you can use project management as a means to do so. You can use voice notes in your instant message channels, however you want to go about that internally for communication, but making sure that the team has a means by which to get unblocked. Not saying that they need to just not plan anything ahead of time. They should be planning things ahead of time. I got to a point where I do not accept live conversation, live questions for the things that they have in that given day that they have to be thinking ahead of time, but realizing that rhythm equals predictability equals profitability. And knowing that those pieces have a direct equation to each other is paramount. Now, let's talk about some early warnings and signs that the agency is becoming unhealthy and becoming an issue, and then you need to watch for these things. Emotional exhaustion on the team. If the team is consistently not coming to work with, compassion, with passion, with excitement, there's issues that are going on, and potentially it may even just be one person that is causing and will rot the rest of the bunch. Slow approvals of things that are going on internally. So if something is supposed to happen on Thursday, but it doesn't end up happening to a week or two later, that is showing that there's a massive bottleneck, most often surrounded around the founder, when the agency is in the constant emergency mode. If you are constantly feeling like everything is on fire and that there's no time and attention for you to get the work done that you have, your list gets longer every single day, there's something going on. Your margins are less than 20%, and that's baseline to me. If your net profit is less than 20% after your compensation, there's a problem. And then just generally low creative energy, because you are delivering a creative service. And if we do not have a meaningful amount of creative passion, excitement, creative energy in the agency, you're causing an issue. So I want you to spot these early before they start to compound and become a massive problem. And so finally, I just want to surmise the things that we're talking about here. And how do we go about balancing all the different pieces that we need to? Realizing again, you have speed, quality, time, and attention, the energy component of the team. So as we start to be able to deliver more consistently with quality, we're able to be in less of a chaotic place. We're able to maintain higher morale. We're able to be in a place where we're able to protect our margins. Clients are happier. We get more referrals. And ultimately, the founder, you, is able to have your sanity back. So this is the foundation, bedrock of a creative agency that is going to be sustainable and continue to be able to grow. One that doesn't make and result in you pulling all your hair out. Running a profitable and healthy creative agency starts with balancing quality, speed, and well-being. But the next step is making sure your clients actually understand the value behind your work, because even the healthiest agency will struggle if prospects don't get the why your work matters and what makes you different. So if you now go watch my next video where I show you exactly how to express your value clearly so prospects choose your agency confidently. I'll see you there.